It's Tuesday, February 28th, the last day of February. I can't believe 2 weeks of the year have already disappeared. And this is episode 2 of the Mentally Fit Life. Last week, I talked about what mental fitness is. I talked about how it is we have a battle in our brain between our best friend brain and our worst enemy brain. And usually that worst enemy brain is the one that wins. Most of the time, the worst enemy part of our brain is the survivor brain. You probably heard of the survivor brain, the limbic system, part of the brain stem. And that is where the stress response, the fight, flight, freeze stress response originates. And that's also where all of our negative emotions are generated. Then we have this other part of our brain, which in positive intelligence terms is called the sage brain. And that is the part of our brain that motivates us through positive emotions. And it motivates us through gratitude and joy, peace of mind, curiosity, creativity, positive emotions. So today I want to talk to you about what a Sage-Preneur is. Sage-Preneur is a name I came up with. There's probably somebody who came up with it before me, but I like to think that I'm going to take credit for it. A Sage-Preneur. I am an aspiring Sage-Preneur. So a Sage-Preneur is an entrepreneur or a solopreneur who is motivated through positive emotions most of the time. Someone who has a positive mindset at least 75% of the time. A Sage-Preneur is someone who, yes, still has self-doubt, still has bouts of insecurity, but they don't let themselves get sabotaged and undermined by those negative emotions. They continue to forge ahead. That's a Sage-Preneur. And a Sage-Preneur, well, they think out of that sage part of their brain most often. Now, I believe that being a Sage-Preneur, in other words, having a positive mindset, is an absolute prerequisite for being an entrepreneur or solopreneur and being successful. And not only successful, but also happy and performing at peak performance. I mean, you can be successful and not be a Sage-Preneur, but you're probably not going to be particularly happy. And most likely, you're really not going to be all that successful either, because you're going to be sabotaged constantly by the judge. We have a committee in our head, and there are 10 members of the committee on that negative side of the equation. And that is the judge and the 9 accomplice saboteurs. So, and they are chattering away all the time. So I just lost my train of thought. My cat is trying to get in the door and I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, back to being a Sage-Preneur. It's an absolute prerequisite for success, happiness, and productivity. And I can share with you why I believe that so strongly. And the reason I believe that so strongly is from my own personal experience. I was an entrepreneur. I was a solopreneur for over 30 years. Back in 1990, decades and decades ago, I was self-employed. I started my own consulting company. And I was modestly successful, but I never thought that I was successful. And when I reached the end of 2018, I had lost interest in my company and it had really just kind of atrophied away. So at the end of 2018, I got fired by my last remaining big client. Actually, they didn't fire me. They took the project in-house, but I interpret it as being fired. And I didn't have the energy to try to build my business back up. So I closed it down. I retired. So on my 65th birthday in 2019, I was standing in the shower. I was washing my hair. And I felt this wave of regret wash over me. I remember thinking, I failed as a businesswoman. I ran my business into the ground. I will never make the kind of money I dreamed of making. I will never be the business success that I dreamed of being. And now I'm 65. It's too late. It's too late. So I vowed then and there that I was going to get a do-over. I was going to start a new business because I realized that I'm only 65, and God willing, I have a couple more decades of life in me. I have plenty of time to start a new business. So I was all enthusiastic. I created a name, got a URL, created a website, wrote a couple blogs, and then self-doubt and insecurity and imposter syndrome, they hit me like I'd been punched in the stomach. And my mean girl inner critic was standing there with a sneer on her face saying, "Who the heck do you think you are to think that you are qualified to be a coach?" And that gut punch of negative emotion stopped me in my tracks, and I gave up. I quit. A couple months in, and I quit. Never got my business launched. My 66th birthday, I'm standing in the shower, washing my hair, and a wave of regret washes over me. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I wasted a year and I'm not getting any younger. I've got to launch this coaching business this year. I've got to. So I tried. I think that year, I don't think I did a website, but I wrote some blog posts. I sent out some emails, kind of tried to develop a list of a little bit. Then I get hit by self-doubt, by insecurity, my mean inner critic, my mean girl inner critic, and boy, is she a mean girl. She chimed in, and I got discouraged. I got frustrated. I got overwhelmed, and I quit. I abandoned the project. My 67th birthday, I'm standing in the shower, washing my hair, and I'm feeling that all too familiar regret wash over me. Now, I wish I could tell you that in my 67th year that I actually carried through and started that coaching business, but I didn't. For the third time in 3 years, I got sabotaged. I got hijacked by self-doubt, insecurity, my perfectionist tendencies, and I abandoned the project after just a couple months. I once again did not launch a business. In 2022, it's my 68th birthday. And I remember thinking that morning as I was standing in the shower, this year has to be different. I have to do something differently. If I don't launch my coaching business this year, I might as well just give up because I don't think I have it in me to try again. I might as well just accept that I truly am retired and do whatever retired people do. Maybe learn to play tennis, maybe learn to play golf, but just kind of pack it in. But luckily this year, I recognized that I had to do something about the self-doubt and the insecurity and the lack of self-confidence. I couldn't keep going on letting those negative emotions run the show. I mean, they self-doubt and lack of self-confidence and insecurity and self-criticism, they were running the show. They were dictating what I did with my life. So even though I had this dream of launching a coaching business, I sabotaged myself because I allowed self-doubt and insecurity and lack of confidence to undermine me, to hijack me. So this year, I knew I had to do it differently. I just didn't know how. And then one day, it was February of last year, I was having a conversation with a fellow member of my Toastmasters Club. He was raving about a book he had just read called Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine. He told me a little bit about this concept of saboteurs and sage. You know, I talked early about the committee in our head that we have these 10 saboteurs and we have 5 sage powers. So we have 5 sages and 10 saboteurs, kind of outnumbered. And that there were ways to strengthen our sage brain and weaken our saboteur brain. In other words, there were ways to change the balance between positive and negative emotions. There were ways to change our minds from worst enemy to best friend. I was really intrigued. So I went home, I Googled positive intelligence, I watched Shirzad's TED Talk, and I remember thinking, Eureka, I have found the solution to my problem. And I signed up for the 6-week positive intelligence coach mental fitness program. And I have been doing mental fitness training, mind, brain muscle building every day since then. And that's why at the start I said I'm an aspiring Sage-Preneur, because I'm not there completely. I still have a really, really mean girl inner critic, but she doesn't run my life all the time anymore. And she used to. She used to lead me around by the nose. I mean, she was firmly in control. She's still there. She rears her ugly little head from time to time, but I don't pay as much attention to her. And when I do become aware that she's chattering away at me, criticizing and nagging and berating me, I'm able to shift into sage, into positivity, into acceptance and love and empathy. That's huge. Empathy has never been my strong suit. And now more and more, I am able to be empathetic, first and foremost to me, to be empathetic, especially when I've been hijacked by my judges, when I've been hijacked by my inner critic, to be empathetic to myself and to know that this is a process and everybody struggles with judgmental thoughts and with fault finding. I'm not terminally unique. It is part of the human condition. We were hardwired to judge ourselves, others, and circumstances. That's my story. I was an entrepreneur for 30 years, never made as much out of my business as I would have liked because I constantly got sabotaged by my inner critic, by my judges, by my saboteurs. I let self-doubt and insecurity dictate what I did during the day. And as a result, I didn't do business development. I didn't make sales calls. I didn't write blog posts because I didn't think really that I had anything interesting or worthwhile to say. And it's really why my business kind of atrophied into nothing by the end of 2018. So when I turned 65 and I had that thought that I failed as a businesswoman and that I ran my business into the ground, well, I don't think that I failed as a businesswoman. Today, I can say that I didn't fail as a businesswoman, but I did run my business into the ground. I lost focus on business development the last couple of years. I just really got beaten down. I got beaten down by my judge and my saboteurs and my inner critic. I just got tired and beaten down and burned out. And I'm telling you my story. So that was 30 years of being a businesswoman because I was a solopreneur for 30 years. And then the 3 years that I struggled to launch a coaching business and failed every single time. And this, the fourth year, I am have launched my coaching business. And I am doing lives and I'm doing reels. And I have the Sage-Preneur Gym Facebook group. I am dedicated and committed, wholeheartedly, all in committed to helping female executives who dream of being their own boss, but they're still stuck in their daytime job, their corporate job, the 9 to 5 grind. They're still stuck. They just can't quite screw up the courage to give notice and to go out and take the risk of starting their own business. If that's you, you are the one that I want to talk to. I can help you because you would be well served to focus on developing into a Sage-Preneur before you actually become a solopreneur entrepreneur. That positive mindset is critical to success, happiness, and productivity when you're out there running your own business. I, in many ways, am a cautionary tale. Yes, I was a solopreneur for over 30 years, but I didn't do it right. I didn't start with a solid foundation of positive mindset. I've always had a bias toward negative mindset, as most of us have. Most of us are. Most of us have a bias toward negativity. We're hardwired that way. And our ancestors needed to have that negative bias because they were constantly looking through in the bushes for the saber-toothed tiger that was going to pounce on them and kill them. And if they hadn't had that negative bias, we wouldn't be here. But those genes, those negative genes, were passed down through generation to us. And we have a negative bias, most of us. Are you a Sage-Preneur? Do you have a positive mindset most of the time? Or do you find that you are constantly finding fault with yourself, with others, with your circumstances? Do you have a mean girl inner critic inside you like I do? It's tough. It's a burden. And you're gonna trip over your shoelaces if you continue to let the negative judgmental side of your brain, that survivor brain, that saboteur brain, if you continue to let that part of your brain run the show, it's going to be really hard to build a successful business. That's it for today. I hope I've explained what a Sage-Preneur is. I've explained why I think being a Sage-Preneur is so important. And I shared my story with you to illustrate why I think it's so important. And I opened the pull back the curtain a little bit on this whole concept of positive intelligence, mental fitness. So in coming weeks, I will talk more about the saboteurs, the 10 saboteurs, the judge and the 9 accomplished saboteurs, and the 5 sage powers. I'll talk about something called the sage perspective. And week by week, I'll give you a little bit more information on what you can do to become a Sage-Preneur now, right now, before you give notice and make the leap. And here's a little tip to get you started. When you are feeling negative emotions, when you are feeling negative energy, even if you're not hearing criticism, and if you're not aware that you have judgmental thoughts going through your brain, if you are feeling negative energy, or if your energy went from positive or strong or energetic and you plummeted in energy, you have been hijacked by your saboteurs, whether you're aware of it or not. And you're probably not aware of it because we've all been getting hijacked by our saboteurs for our entire life. So for me, I am often not aware of what my judge and my saboteurs are saying to me because they chatter so quietly. They're chattering away in my subconscious mind, and I'm not aware of them. I mean, their effect is like Chinese water torture: drip, 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 drip. So I start the day very energetic, and then my energy just drains out by about midday. My energy level is my biofeedback device for determining whether I'm in sage or saboteur mode of thinking. Is when my energy is low, and especially when my energy plummets dramatically quickly, I know that I have been hijacked. And so what you have to do, what I do then, is that I have to shift from that negative saboteur thinking into positive sage thinking. And the way I do that, and the way I suggest you do that, is by getting acutely aware of your physical body. Because when we're thinking those negative thoughts, we're all up here. And what we want to do is get out of that up here, that rat race of habitual automatic negative thoughts. We need to break that cycle. And the way we do that is by getting out of our brains and focused on our bodily sensations. And this the easiest thing to do. Here's a little trick. Take 2 fingers and rub them together. Close your eyes. Rub your fingertips together with such attention, such focus, that you can feel the ridges of your fingertips. And just keep rubbing them together. Keep feeling the fingertips and the softness of your fingers, the texture of the skin. Focus intently on the feel of your fingertips. And now take one set of fingertips of one hand, and draw them down your fingers and palm of the other hand. And feel the sensations of the fingers of one hand. Feel the sensations on the other hand. And then change hands and do it on the other hand. And just pay really, really close attention to the feelings, to what you're feeling, the feeling of those fingers on your palm. And now take both hands, palm and fingers, and just kind of rub them back and forth, paying really close attention to the sensations. You have done what we call a PQ rep. You've done a little mini workout. You've done a little muscle building. And what's happened is that you have shifted out of saboteur mode into Sage mode, if only even for just a moment. So if you were under an MRI machine, in an MRI machine, and you were thinking negative thoughts, the saboteur, the survivor part of your brain would be activated. You could see it on the MRI. And then if you did those PQ reps, even after just 10 seconds, you would see the sage brain, the sage part of our brain, which is part of the prefrontal cortex and the empathy circuitry and parts of the right brain. You would see those parts of the brain light up. They would activate, and the survivor brain would basically go out. The lights would go out, and the sage brain would be activated. I mean, you can see it on MRI machines. And you might feel a little bit calmer. You might have a little more clarity. You might feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more content. Now, chances are when you're first starting out, that feeling of calm and content might not last very long, and you might default back into negative thinking. But we do this every day. I do mental fitness training every single day, throughout the day, a couple times a day, so that I can stay, to the best of my ability, I can stay in sage mode, so that my sage brain is activated and my survivor brain is deactivated. And I am able to have a positive mindset. I am able to be grateful and curious and empathetic and creative and joyful and happy. I feel all of those things. When I am feeling those things, curious, creative, calm, content, joyful, grateful, I kick serious butt in my business. And I do it from a state of ease and flow, because I am in sage mode, sage way of thinking. When I'm doing that, I am a Sage-Preneur. Now, I want that for you. So if you liked what I said today, please like this video. Please comment on this video. Please share this video with others that you think would benefit from this message, other aspiring solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. I'll be back next week, 5 o'clock Tuesday, 5 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, Arizona time, for another episode of The Mentally Fit Life. And next week, I will be going into more detail about the saboteurs and the judge, and those nasty little characters in our brain that have been running the show for so long. In the meantime, I am just about done creating a freebie called Prepare to Unboss. And it is the 6 steps that you need to do right now while you're still employed to prepare yourself for quitting, giving notice, and going out and starting your own business. It's called Prepare to Unboss. Watch this space, because I'll be announcing it later this week. It's a freebie. In exchange for your email, I will send you this very valuable, action-packed freebie guide. And I encourage you to join the Sage-Preneur Gym in Facebook. That's the private community for aspiring solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, and solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, for people who are already out self-employed running their own businesses and those who aspire to. This is your community. It's a safe space. I will be providing tips. I will be answering questions. It will be a space where you can ask questions. You can share about your experiences, and especially about the struggles, because being an entrepreneur, solopreneur, it's lonely and it's scary and it's hard sometimes. And it helps to have someone who understands what you're going through. That's what the Sage-Preneur Gym is. That's SagePreneur Jim, Jym. I hope to see you. Would love it if you would join the Sagepreneur Gym. And later this week, when my freebie is available, I hope that you will sign up to get it, that you will register to get it. That's it for now. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week, same time, same place.